Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Donjo number AST-21386SL. This is a Donjo very long special security strike. Special in the sense that it's a little bit, you just don't see these all the time. So what this strike is, it's in a family of several other long, very heavy-duty, thick security strikes that you would have from Donjo. The AST-21386 specifically means that you have an 18-inch long strike, okay, that you have. They say that it's 1 3/8, and really nowhere on here is it going to measure 1 3/8. This would probably, what they're probably referring to is the fact that this might be very well suited for an 1 3/8 thick door, is what I would imagine is what they're gathering, with that being appropriate for an 1 3/8 thick door. You'll have to judge that for yourself. It could certainly work for an 1 3/4 door, in the sense that, if you had, basically no trim on the exterior, this might work for you. But the overall width being, basically 1 7/8, you wouldn't have, you wouldn't really have a proper relationship between the center of the door thickness. It could work. The center of the door thickness, the center of the door needs to be centered in the rabbet of the frame. And the latch bolts, coming out of the edge of the door, and the holes in the strike need to line up. Obviously, and if your application will permit that, ideally you're going to be having that break in the proper location. So for an 1 3/4 thick door, you'll have quite, something's not going to work right with that, because your latch bolt's not going to be centered. If you were going from this edge to the break, which is about 1.5 inches. It could also work, though, if you had really thick, like the longer reach kerfed-in style weather stripping. They make that material that's, 5/8 reach. So that could be a reason why you might use this. But be mindful, those are the dimensions in terms of the length and the width. They say that these holes will work for either 5.5 inch or 6. I don't intentionally hit the pause button. 5.5 inch or 6 inch centers on that. And the reason they're saying that is because these holes are a bit longer than necessary, so you've got a little bit of play. You've got a 1/4 inch of play there on the height of these strike preps, which are 1 3/4 by 3/4 inch. You'll notice that there are holes out here, and you'll notice that there's a hole here and here, and you'll notice that these are different size holes. We'll talk about that in a moment. The thickness of the material, they say that it is, they don't say. My caliper tells me it's 0.09, so 90 thousandths of an inch, so almost 3/32 of an inch. 14 gauge maybe, something in that range. 14 gauge. Weighs 0.83 pound, so it's not insignificant in its weight, and does have 4 screws of one length and 2 screws of another length. So 2 screws and then 4 screws. Sorry, you didn't see that. 4 screws and then 2 screws. They're different sizes to go along with the fact that the countersinks are a different size as well. We'll talk about that right now. Let's switch to the screen view and talk about that. Okay, so here's the item that we are looking at. Dimensional properties here, 5.5 and 6 inch. Dimensions 18 inch long, 1 3/8. It's going to be more of a reference to the door thickness than anything else. Template, and that's going to show you all of the dimensional properties beyond the ones that I've already provided. It's actually 13 gauge. That was a pretty good guess, but 13 gauge. They say 0.95. My caliper said 0.90. They list BP, and that would be brass plated. That's on here. We'll talk about different other finishes in a moment. Then we have the product catalog, and let's copy our part number there so that we can pull up the product catalog and then Control F and then paste it into that search box, and we'll find the table where all of these are listed. Okay, so how would you filter these to find what you want? Well, single hole or double hole. If it's single hole, there are your options. Double hole, then select your centers, 3 5/8 or 4, 5.5 inch or forgive me, single hole or single hole. That hole in that prep is going to be taller. Then double hole would be 3 5/8 and 4, and 5.5 or 6. Okay. The height of this prep, it's probably going to be closer to 2 3/4. Let's take a look. Template for that M version. So 3.5 inch is the length. And if you recall, our prep height was 1 3/4. So that's double the size on that hole for that M version. Lengths at this point would be the next filter. Okay. Door thickness would be the next filter. Then finishes. BP for brass plated, SL for silver coated, WH for white coated. That would get you right to where you need it to be. Okay. Now, why did we have those funny holes? Let's go back and take a look at our template, and let's remember that we had 4 holes on the outside and 2 holes on the inside, or closer towards the lip. All right. Here's why. All right, here's why. So you have a frame. And you have your wall construction. We're a little bit out of scale here. Okay, you've got some pretty typical wall construction here. Stud. Proper construction is going to give you 2 studs here and here. Your strike is going to fit right in here. Okay. Now you'll recall that you had a hole here, and then you had some on the back side here. There were 4 over here and 2 over here. The point is that the screws towards the lip side, of which there are 2 of them, would miss the studs. The longer screws are meant to penetrate the studs. Okay? The longer screws are 3 inch, the shorter screws are 1 inch. So be mindful that this screw here is 1 inch and this one will be 3 inch. But that's why you have the 2 different lengths. So that in your installation you can sink screws down through the entire frame and into your stud. And I would recommend that you absolutely pre-drill the hole the proper size to get that screw through, and that I would use, pull up product brochure here. You know, I would be using a drill bit that would be of the appropriate length. You know, something like an aircraft extension. You know, something a little bit longer. Let's see if we can search by that. Yeah, so the aircraft extension are going to be available in longer lengths. Flute length 3 7/8, overall length 12 inch. You know, you're going to be looking for something 6 inch length. In the product brochure, you know, you'll be able to find these longer length drill bits so that this is exactly what I'd like. 6-inch aircraft extension, 135-degree split point. This is precisely what I would be using for this job. Okay, you've got those part numbers here that you can populate back into the site. In terms of what size you're going to pre-drill, depends on the species of wood. Maybe 85% of the root diameter if it's hardwood, maybe 75% of the root diameter if it's softwood. I would personally be giving myself, that your stud is going to be softwood, and it's very likely that your jam is going to be hardwood. I would probably go through with something a little bit smaller, like an 80%, and then I would drill only my jam a little bit, maybe to the 85%, just so that my screw had better clearance through the frame, because I don't want to bog my screw down as I'm trying to drive it through the jam. I don't want to get really bogged down here as I'm trying to get all the way down and through. You need to make sure that that hole is properly drilled to the proper pre-fit. And those are the guidelines mentioned earlier. You don't want to get it halfway through and realize it's too small, and now you're starting to strip the screw, if you follow my meaning. Okay, so that would be installation, and that's why you have those different holes. Now, there is a link here below this video to the manufacturer's page that will allow you to review not only all of the Danjo products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation here, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog, and that same full product catalog broken up into its constituent parts. If you know the name Danjo, you probably do for their wraparound plates and their latch protectors, but you might be surprised to learn they sell hinges, they sell pivots, roller latches and surface bolts, door stops, flat goods, things of that nature. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Now, where are you going to use this and when? Probably because you've had a break-in. The frame's been damaged and you need something super long so that you can get in there and work away, chisel away all of the damaged material that's on the frame, and then, come back with something that's going to help keep the jam back together. Okay, and this would be an example of such a piece of hardware. It's never installed as a product during new construction, although it wouldn't be impossible. I have had a client who's ordered security hardware for new construction just because he knew that within 6 months there would be an attempted break-in. So if you have that sort of scenario, that might be your logic as well. But nonetheless, this is a product used after the damage has occurred. Very large piece of steel, going to be very durable, etc. The name Danjo is synonymous, as I said earlier, with wraparound plates and latch protectors. But again, these strike plates, these security pieces of hardware, are very much worth looking into. I would suggest a scroll through the full line catalog, if only to familiarize yourself with everything that Danjo makes. If you're looking at this, there's very likely something else that Danjo makes or either applies today or maybe in a future project or a past project that you wish you had known that they had manufactured. Good quality people over there. On the rare occasion that they make an error, they make it good pretty quick. And to them I say thank you. Any questions on the Danjo AST-21386SL, and that SL stands for that silver powder coat finish made of steel, or any other Danjo product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.